Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Trill Gates. A new apartment building may be coming to Elmira. Big Fox's Josh Fehlberg takes us to the old Booth School building, the site of the proposed new complex.
The Elmira City Council has applied for a multi-million-dollar grant to turn the former Booth School into a new apartment complex. The council applied for the grant through Restore New York. The grant money is expected to help the owners of the building with a lot of the expenses of the renovation. The school has been closed since 2004. Since then, the building has been used for many different purposes. The building is becoming run down and in need of a renovation and new function like the proposed plan. The Booth School on West 2nd and Davis Street is being used for another purpose at the moment. A maintenance worker for the Elmira School District told Big Fox that the building is currently being used as a storage facility for the district. Big Fox was also told that the school has seen a lot of attempted break-ins. The hope is that the remodeling of the building will stop intruders in the area. The building is expected to hold around 50 apartments. The Elmira City Council has expressed that there is a need for low to moderately priced rental units in the community. The city expects to hear back within the next couple of months whether or not the grant is approved. Josh Fehlberg, Big Fox News, Elmira.
4 Elmira correctional officers have been hospitalized after inmate attacks. The attacks saw inmates punching officers in the face and chest, as well as a bite on an officer's forearm that required officer force for the inmate to release the bite. Myscoba Western Region Vice President Kenny Gold once again pointed to the HALT Act as the reason for the violence. The HALT Act limits the use of solitary confinement and other punishments on incarcerated individuals. A thief impersonating a NYSEG employee is at large after committing several burglaries. The Ithaca police are asking for help identifying this man. The suspect allegedly had been falsely identifying himself as an electric and gas worker to get into the buildings in the area. The suspect is approximately 5 feet tall with a visible tattoo on top of his left hand. Police ask that anyone with information contact them through the police tip line. That's 607-330-0000 or through their anonymous tip email. Elmira police are warning about a scam. Via social media, they say Deluxe Travel has been at some local events offering a chance to win a Disneyland trip. They say if they call and say you've won, then ask for your credit card information. You should not give it to them. They also remind people not to give out any credit card or personal information via email or text or to someone you don't know or trust. It's the Great Pumpkin, everyone. That is, it's time for pumpkin picking in the Southern Tier. Our own Maggie Hall ventured to a new pumpkin patch in the area to find out how the fall harvest is going.
While you may not find the Great Pumpkin or Charlie Brown here at Button's Pumpkin Patch and Vintage Market, you will find pumpkins and more. Kristen owns the farm and market with her fiance, John Button.
Yeah, so this is our first big year that we started this, and we grow and sell pumpkins. We do gourds, mums, all kinds of stuff.
Kristen said it was a bit of a dry season, so some of the pumpkins were smaller than normal. The dry season wasn't their only growing challenge. They had to battle it out with some woodchucks trying to have their pumpkins as a tasty snack. As I said before, it's not only pumpkins here at the patch.
Then we have a vintage market that hosts vendors in the local area, plus some of our own stuff.
There were many families gathering their pumpkins for the fall season. Visitor Tina Carney said that this is an amazing place to take your kids for a pumpkin. I asked Kristen why she thinks folks return year after year to pumpkin patches in the fall. And she said, I think pumpkins bring people joy. And some people like to decorate with them as well. It's not all about the traditional jack-o'-lantern anymore. Decoration isn't the only use for a pumpkin either. You can roast the seeds, which are rich in protein, magnesium, and zinc. Another unique pumpkin use is turning it into an edible shell for veggie dip or even fondue.
You can find Button's Pumpkin Patch on Facebook or right here in Beaver Dams. Maggie Hall, Big Fox News, Beaver Dams.
The upcoming WWE event in Elmira has been canceled. First Arena released a statement saying that the October 9th Sunday Stunner event has been canceled. According to First Arena president Steve Donner, the event has been canceled by the WWE due to low advance ticket sales. First Arena is looking to reschedule the event for the spring of 2023. Refunds for the event are available at the original point of purchase. A group of New York State troopers are currently in Puerto Rico to aid in the Hurricane Fiona relief efforts. Many in Puerto Rico are still without power and access to potable water. The New York State troopers will join FEMA personnel already on the ground with the relief efforts. The group of 50 officers will be heading to 4 major Puerto Rican cities, including Ponce, Mayagüez, Arecibo, and Aguadilla. New York City started construction on a temporary shelter to house. Take 2. New York City started construction on a temporary shelter to house thousands of migrants who've been bused from southwestern states to the Big Apple. The hangar-sized tent shelter is going up in a remote parking lot in the northern part of the Bronx after the city's homeless shelters became strained from an influx of migrants arriving from Texas and Arizona. The men, women, and children were sent by Republican governors to Democratic states in what critics say is a political ploy that's creating a humanitarian crisis. Immigration officials say they don't want this shelter to become permanent, but say the move to bus migrants out of state does little to solve the immigration problem.
We don't want what is supposed to be temporary to become permanent, so we don't want this temporary respite center to end up becoming a de facto shelter for folks where there's 1,000 beds, right? Where people are going to be sleeping and literally just being there in Orchard Beach, which is incredibly far from mass transit. Also, Orchard Beach is a flood zone. We're in the midst of hurricane season.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams says the city has opened up 23 emergency shelters to handle the influx of migrants and may consider adding more. A popular convenience store chain was ransacked in Philadelphia Saturday. The Philadelphia police report dozens of people, some reportedly as young as 10, raided a local Wawa. Footage of the incident shows patrons throwing food, standing on furniture, and yelling, all while employees watched helplessly. Police say they're investigating. Russia's gas pipeline Nord Stream 2 is reportedly leaking into the Baltic Sea. Denmark's military has issued images of gas bubbling at the surface. Seismologists in Sweden reportedly say they detected 2 explosions in the regions of the Baltic Sea Monday where the leaks have occurred. The Nord Stream 2 was built to deliver gas to Germany and other nations in Europe from Russia, but the project was put on hold since Russia invaded Ukraine in February. And the nation's largest retailer and private employer is increasing fertility benefits for employees. Walmart is teaming up with a fertility startup to offer benefits under its insurance plan. KindBody will offer benefits such as in vitro fertilization as well as fertility testing. Walmart's employees will get access to more than 30 fertility clinics and IVF labs across the United States. Your forecast is coming up next. Plus,
well, NASA destroyed a spacecraft, running it directly into an asteroid. I'm Doug Luzader in Washington. We'll have more on why the mission may have been a success coming up.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
A powerful and slow-moving low-pressure system has kept much of the Northeast under this wet weather pattern. Now, looking over the last few days, we've at least had a trace of precipitation in that last 5 days. Now, we'll note that the main system that we've been factoring in has been over the last few days, and we've been bringing in at least a half an inch on Sunday, a few hundredths of an inch on Monday, and then as well as today, that's really only what we're factoring in, is about a few hundredths of an inch. Some areas walking away with a few tenths of an inch to a quarter of an inch, depending on where some of that lake effect rainfall is able to spread and continue to live on outside of that low pressure system holding across the Great Lakes. So what we're going to factor in is still going to stay under some showery activity, but it is going to stay very light and isolated even through the overnight, as we will watch temperatures fall within those 40s. We're staying under some lighter winds, and we'll see lows fall just to about average for this time of the year, as that sits about 45 for this time. We're hit about 47 into Elmira as well as into Westfield and up through the Finger Lakes. So pretty constant conditions there, as we'll stay gloomy as we step through our Wednesday. Still going to mention maybe a light and isolated shower. Again, only going to mention about a few hundredths of an inch possible, and then we'll start to talk about some clearing that will occur as we head into our Thursday. This low pressure system, as mentioned, it's pretty slow moving, although it continues to intensify as there's this blocking pattern setting up across the continental United States, allowing for it to take its time to move its way out. But with that clearing that we'll see set up on Thursday, we will stay cooler due to early cloud cover, but then we should see some warming with some brighter skies this weekend. So rolling through the overnight, you can see where that precipitation is associated with those Great Lake regions, and that's where the extent of that cloud cover even stays. At times, there might be some of that clearing trying to work in, but we're going to hope for more of that clearing to come as a high pressure system will move in by Thursday. But you can even note here Thursday morning, still extensive cloud cover as well as moisture in the air, which could create some of those frosty mornings for the area as well that we'll need to keep an eye on. But as mentioned, when it comes to precipitation accumulation, you're noting that there's only about a few hundredths of an inch up to about a quarter of an inch possible, but that even includes some of these overnight showers that are going to be possible. So day to day, it is just going to be very spotty. Temperature wise, we continue to stay below average from even those 50s into the Finger Lakes to just flirting with the 60-degree marker for Elmira and Corning, which is about 10 degrees below average for this time of the year. Now, with some cloud cover holding into our Thursday, it is going to keep us within those 50s widespread across the area, so continuing to keep us about 10 degrees below average. But when we start to see some of that clearing on Thursday night, we are going to note that our Friday morning conditions will include some of those frosty mornings, and that could potentially bring some harm, especially to some of that sensitive vegetation that's still thriving this time of the year. So keep an eye on your Friday morning lows, but then that sunshine on Friday afternoon should bring us back up into those mid 60s, even back towards average into our Saturday forecast. But then we could be dealing with some showery activity again into next week.
The holiday shopping season is off to an early start. Soaring inflation has forced retailers and consumers to change their plans. Jackie Ibanez has more.
We're about 2 months away from the official kickoff to the holiday shopping season, but soaring inflation has many people rethinking their plans. According to a recent survey by Bankrate, about 84% of respondents say they'll try to save money this year. 40% will purchase fewer items, while about 21% plan to buy gifts from cheaper brands. Analysts say last year's supply chain issues has caused a surplus, which could help people find better deals.
What we're seeing is a little bit of overflow inventory from the supply chain issues in 2021. So we're looking at a lot of that stock came in late, so retailers have it on clearance now.
Meanwhile, retailers are already bracing for slower holiday sales growth. Global consulting firm AlixPartners expects sales to be up between 4% and 7%, about half of last year's growth. In an effort to drive up sales, big retailers like Walmart and Target will start offering holiday deals in October to ease pressure on consumers. Amazon also plans to hold a second Prime Day event next month.
You're actually going to see a couple of shopping opportunities come up now and then again later in the year.
Smaller businesses, including Christmas tree farms, are urging consumers to do their shopping early as supply could be limited.
You're going to have to just be patient, I think. That's really the only thing there is.
Analysts recommend consumers spread out their spending and buy popular items as early as possible.
Employees working from home during the pandemic may have been a key driver in the surge in home prices. Research by the Federal Reserve of San Francisco finds home prices in the U.S. increased by 24% in 2 years, ending in November 2021. More than 60% of that price hike is being credited to the rise in employees working from home. Remote workers were able to move to different cities with less expensive housing options or more appealing amenities. The Fed also adds that as working remotely becomes more permanent, it could increase future housing costs and inflation. It's getting to the end of September, but Christmas will be here before you know it, and I can't wait. And for those who celebrate, that means getting a tree. In Southwest Michigan, local farmers reported a shortage of trees last year, and the reason that was the case may be traced to the year 2009. Ann Lurie reports.
Before buyers are in the market for their annual Christmas tree, even long before the leaves turn, some are out all year long preparing. People like Ted Schrader.
I'm a Christmas tree farmer
Who owns and operates Schrader Tree Farm. He says there's no off-season when it comes to farming pine trees. Schrader only planted his trees 3 years ago, and while he waits for them to grow, he's selling pre-cut trees at his farm. He says these last few years have been tough.
Last year we wanted a bigger order, but we couldn't fill it, so there was a shortage. It's unfortunate because we had to turn people away.
Schrader says there's no one reason it's been so difficult to find a tree. The growth of trees aren't affected much by the amount of rain or drought, but it could be the effects of the '09 recession. Schrader says after the demand dropped due to economic downfall, there were less trees planted. But why is it being felt so many years later? Because before a tree looks like this, it has to start here. And these kind of crops can take a decade to grow.
And now that's caught up, we don't have enough trees to supply demand. There's a cycle definitely on trees like any produce, so unfortunately this is going to be like a 10-year cycle on each one of these every year we grow, but I think that we might get a little bit better.
The good news, the return is slow, but it's steady. Schrader says as the economy bounced back, so did planting rates.
You're going to have to just be patient, I think. That's really the only thing there is.
Still ahead, NASA is on a mission to save the planet from future asteroids, and their first test was a success so far. That and more ahead. New rules could force airlines to disclose fees. Oprah and Apple part ways, and a classic line of Ford trucks are being reimagined. CJ Papa has today's business briefs.
Airlines and travel websites could soon be forced to come clean about hidden fees for flight changes, cancellations, and checked baggage. The Biden administration is proposing new rules as part of a crackdown on airlines. They would mandate companies disclose additional charges when airfare is initially displayed instead of when customers finalize their purchase. Oprah Winfrey and Apple TV Plus are closing their chapter together. The multi-year content partnership began in 2018. But Deadline is reporting that's ending. However, they may work together on a project-by-project basis. And if you're someone that prefers a good old classic version of the Ford F-250, get ready to pay up. A full lineup of the high-end heavy-duty trucks have been unveiled. The fifth generation 1967 F-250, created by Velocity Modern Classics, is completely gutted inside and restored with all the tech and power a Ford fan needs, including a leather bench seat, luxury carpet, sporty tilt steering wheels, and brand new electronics. The company pricing the car at a whopping $285,000, and the price can reach $325,000 if you decide to purchase the full amenity package. That's business. I'm CJ Papa.
They did it. NASA scientists working with their partners at Johns Hopkins struck an asteroid with a spacecraft late yesterday. The successful test could one day help save the Earth. Doug Luzader has more from Washington, not far from Mission Control.
Now, the spacecraft, called DART, was utterly destroyed, but that was the plan. And now the next step, figuring out whether this will change the orbit of a giant rock in space. The asteroid Dimorphos had never really been seen like this before, but as it grew larger and larger, scientists at Mission Control in Maryland, just outside of Washington, knew they were on the right track.
I have to say, I shed a tear when the last image that didn't come out fully.
And just after this final close-up image, the camera went to red as it and the rest of the spacecraft were destroyed.
And
liftoff.
The rocket carrying DART launched back in November. The payload, DART itself, was about the size of a big refrigerator. Through 7 million miles of space, it silently stalked the 500-foot diameter asteroid for about 10 months. And the theory here is that as a high-speed projectile, its 1,200-pound mass would be enough to just barely knock Dimorphos off course.
What we're going to be seeing probably in the next couple of months, we're actually going to get a confirmation of exact period change that we made.
Dimorphos was never a threat to Earth. And while the asteroid that may have wiped out the dinosaurs, say, was much larger, we may now have a proven method to deal with that kind of threat.
So after tonight, we will have a viable technique that we have in our pocket in case we ever find an asteroid that is on collision course. And with this technique, we can send another DART and hit this asteroid to redirect it.
Now, unlike what we often see in the movies, NASA didn't want to break this asteroid apart, which could create even more problems. Instead, it was more of a nudge, and we'll find out in coming months whether it actually worked.
Stay with us. We'll have more after the break. Well, how about this to leave you with? It seems the times are not a-changing at Costco. The company says they have no plans ever to change their hot dog food court deal, which is $1.50 for a hot dog and soda. The deal has been put in place since 1985, and this comes as the company's chief financial officer, Richard Galanti, hints that deal could just hold out for, quote, a little longer. Another interesting tidbit, and possibly the reason why the change hasn't been made, Costco President and CEO W. Craig Jelinek claims that co-founder Jim Sinegal once threatened to kill him if the price has ever been increased. I'm Harriet Wallace. Thanks for watching.